Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis. Once again with our new moon video. The new moon will be exact in 1.5 degrees of Aquarius on January 21st at 3:53 p.m. Eastern time, which is New York time in the US, and 8:53 p.m. London time. And of course, a new moon is always the beginning of a new moon cycle. Now, new moons are a good time to reflect in our lives and to set new intentions for the new moon cycle. So in order for us to do that, we need to go within first and plant some seeds for anything that we'd like to get to, accomplish, do, fulfill on over the next 28 days and beyond. Now, we will talk about the best time for setting intentions and the most potent time to set intentions towards the end of this video. So stay tuned for that if that's of interest to you. And before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the next forecasting forum, this time only, will be on a Monday on February 6th at 5 p.m. New York time. And there's also an early bird special that is available until February 4th at midnight. Okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that. And now let's talk about the new moon. Now, this new moon is another supermoon. This is the second of 4 super new moons in a row. And the supermoons occur when the moon becomes either full or new and is at its closest distance to the Earth. And so because they're closer than normal, that makes that lunation more powerful. Now, they generate greater gravitational and electromagnetic forces and therefore increase the effects on our physical, mental, and emotional bodies. That leads to significant shifts in consciousness. So that's why this supermoon energy is just much stronger than a regular new moon. Now, feel free to use my timestamps in the description part of the video below to watch the video in smaller sequences or jump to a part in the video that you're interested in. And let's talk a little bit about Aquarius. So since this super moon occurs in Aquarius, it invites us to go out there and connect to our people, our tribe, people that resonate with us. A cause that feels aligned with our values, but also feels aligned with our need for stability and comfort. And also a connection that serves a larger vision for our financial future and the future of our planet. So these are some of the things that we're trying to connect with this supermoon, with this super new moon. Now we have 3 exalted planets in this super new moon chart. The first one is Mercury, the planet of communication and how we process information. Mars, the planet of passion and going after our goals. And Uranus, the planet of breakthroughs and innovation. Now, Mars in Gemini and Mercury in Capricorn are no longer going to be retrograde at the time of the new moon, but they're still moving slower than usual, which means they're both stationing, trying to catch up to their regular speed after they've come to a halt on January 12th and January 18th. So Mars was January 12th, Mercury is on January 18th, where they're changing directions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. But first, let me just say Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, is the most exalted of all of those 3 planets. It's the loudest, you could say, because it is coming to a halt only 26 hours after the new moon becomes exact, ending its 5 months retrograde phase at 15 degrees of Taurus. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit as well. But with all of this, we're being asked to be extra mindful about connecting to our body, our finances, and the planet in an innovative and unique way. Uranus wants us to be innovative. We're also being asked to be extra mindful about how we share and communicate and what our inner dialogue reveals about ourselves and where we're at currently In order to know where you're going, you always have to know what your beginning point is, because if you don't know where your starting point is, then it's very difficult to make plans for how to get where you want to be going. So we need to just know, where are we at right now? Now, the good news is that from January 23rd to April 21st, all planets will be in forward motion. There will be no retrograde planets. And this indicates that there's a possibility for an accelerated time of manifestation for most of us, especially connected to fairly new projects or ideas, or completely new projects or ideas that we want to move forward. So ask yourself, what in my life is asking for an accelerated progress? And what would I do if I had the support of the universe, which we will have between January 23rd and April 21st. Now, let's first talk a little bit about Aquarius and what this energy represents before we jump into some of the aspects that are connected to the supermoon chart. Now, the highest vibration of Aquarius represents the threshold of individuation and the attainment of group consciousness, where we kind of transcend all the differences that we have as human beings, where we transcend gender, race, religion, nationality, and where we realize that we are all members of one human race, that we're all connected because we're living on this planet. And it is the energy of equality and diversity, freedom and reform, collaboration and community that we're connecting with in the highest vibration of Aquarius. Now, when we're bringing all of this together in Aquarius, where we have the combined efforts of each individual, we can achieve so much more than each person on their own. And everyone matters as we're coming together and as we're bringing our own individuation process to the collective consciousness and allowing the collective consciousness to grow and expand and to evolve by bringing our own individual process to the collective. Now, we could make tremendous progress in a short amount of time when we're doing this, when we're coming together in that way. Now, remember, this is the highest vibration of Aquarius. Now, the super new moon in Aquarius trines an exalted Mars in Gemini and sextiles Jupiter in Aries. So this trine with Mars invites us to socialize and connect with other people. Great ideas and concepts can be shared over the next 4 weeks. So take advantage of that if you can. Now, the connections we make are more likely to be based on an exchange of information, because Mars is in Gemini, which is always about information. And this can be a very productive time when we're allowing ourselves to have these exchanges. Now, ask yourself, what might I share with my tribe if I wanted to passionately express something that might make other people's lives better? And this is a very Aquarian question, but also connected to that Mars in Gemini. Now, what action would bring me closer to my desired personal and global future? So again, with Mars, we need to take actions, and the global future is the Aquarian energy, and the personal future is Mars again. So, and then what could I teach or learn that could proactively support my healing process? And this is a really great question, of course, because Mars right now is connected to Chiron, the wounded healer, because Chiron is in Aries. So what could I teach Gemini, right, or learn Gemini that could proactively support my healing process connected to that Chiron in Aries? Now, always with these questions, if you're new to my videos, just remember you can journal on them, you can meditate on them, or you can just use them throughout the next 4 weeks, by checking in with these questions once in a while to see, what resonates and how to tune in into your own intuitive connection to these energies and to these planets. and let the answers come to you rather than trying to answer the questions. Now, the sextile that the super new moon is making to Jupiter invites us to connect and collaborate with like-minded people and start something that gets us excited about the future. So Jupiter always gives us courage to, especially in Aries, Jupiter gives us courage to kind of have a new beginning of some sort. So ask yourself, what adventure would help expand perspectives for myself and other people? And how could I be an example for like-minded people in my community? And what kind of perspective about myself would support a beneficial outcome in my larger communities or networks? Remember, we're connecting the dots between Aries and Aquarius. Aries is ourselves. Aquarius is the larger communities and the networks. And what attitudes towards life might support a beneficial outcome in my larger communities or networks? And so the attitudes that's connected to Jupiter, our attitudes that we have towards life. Now, let's talk again just a little bit about Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, which comes to a halt at 15 degrees of Taurus on January 22nd, the day after the new moon becomes exact, because it's ending its 5 months retrograde phase. And Uranus's energy has been already louder since January 8th, when it started its station phase, when it started to slow down. And it will be still exalted and still louder until February 7th. So this is really a whole month of that energy being quite loud in our awareness. And it also aligns closely to the North Node in Taurus. So this is really a time to make a real change. In other words, not merely something that looks like it could be a change, but something that where we can really make an effort to say, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to do this in this area of my life. I'm going to shift something. Now, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, which is the planet of communication. And so Uranus is sort of our higher mind. And that increases our access to innovative thinking and alternative solutions. And this is something we really want to focus on with that energy. Innovative thinking, alternative solutions. So this station phase that we're currently in and will be until February 7th could also coincide with revelations that we're having about something in our lives, whether that's connected to our finances, our own physical body, whether that's connected to our environment, the earth, the planet. It could also be connected to reversals or other unexpected events. And with the station phase, there is also sometimes, severe weather or earthquakes that could be connected to a Uranus station. Now, we are being asked to elevate our thinking if we want our bodies and the planet to vibrate at a higher frequency. So Uranus is always inviting us to elevate our thinking to this higher frequency, to just tap into more than just our conditioned mind, but to tap into the universal mind, into the higher mind, our higher self mind, and the oneness of the mind of the oneness, you could say. And yeah, as we're tapping into that higher mind, we can bring a much higher frequency to anything material or physical, like our body, our finances, our things, but also the planet, right? The planet is a physical thing. Now, Uranus in Taurus emphasizes the urgency also of changing our relationship with the earth, with the planet that we live on, and changing it particularly from domination and exploitation to stewardship and co-creation, and to really allow ourselves to be a collaborative process with the planet rather than a domination process. So looking back over the last 5 months during this Uranus retrograde phase, what have I learned about honoring my body or connecting to this higher frequency? What about my material and financial resources or my talents? What have I learned about that? And in what ways have I started to elevate my thinking about all of those things? In what ways have I been able to tap into a higher frequency when it comes to these things? And am I ready to honor my own unique approach with things? Remember, Uranus is about our own individual process, our uniqueness. Now, am I ready to honor my own unique approach? And where am I prepared to take a giant leap forward? Because remember, when Uranus goes direct on January 22nd, that's when we really were able to take a giant leap forward. Now, Mercury comes to a halt, ending its 3-week retrograde phase only 3.5 days before the new moon becomes exact on January 18th in the morning, while Mars ended its 2.5 months retrograde phase already on January 12th in the late afternoon. Now, and when we have so many planets changing directions in such short amount of time, it's just that this energy just becomes louder inside of us, outside of us. The awareness it's there to create awareness for us. And Mars has been louder since January 1st and will continue to ask for our attention until January 24th. And Mercury will still be exalted and louder until January 23rd. So with planets ending their retrograde phases, they are ready to move forward and bring to the world whatever material they have learned and integrated during the retrograde phases. So what you can ask yourself here is, what did I learn about my long-term goals, my aspirations, and how I want to show up out there in the world within current social structures? And where are my limitations? Where does my expertise lie? And these questions are all connected to the Mercury station direct, which is on January 18th. So please ask those questions after January 18th. And then, what have I learned about my masculine energies? Assertion, anger, proactivity, independence, passion, sex drive, etc. These are all connected to that Mars energy. And what have I learned about the actions I took or couldn't take during that station phase with Mars, or during the retrograde phase? So what have I learned about that Mars energy? And when am I doing too much or not enough? Am I rushing things? Do I get impatient with myself or with others? Am I expecting too much of myself or others? And what is my nervous system telling me about my current state? Now, of course, all these are connected to the Mars station direct and the station phase. And then 2 more questions you can ask here is, what am I ready to bring to the world from all of those realizations? So once you've connected with all of these questions and maybe journaled on them, what am I ready to bring to the world from all of those realizations? And what felt most in alignment with my inner core? Remember, these retrograde phases, they are there so that we can get realigned from the inside out. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the exalted Uranus in Taurus, which is aligning with the North Node, and also trines the exalted Mercury in Capricorn. And of course, Mercury consequently also makes a sextile to the South Node in Scorpio, because it makes a trine to Uranus and the North Node. So let's take a look at all of that. For those of you who are not interested in the astrology jargon, let's just talk about what that all means. Now, this alignment could bring a lot of nervous energy with it, along with a lot of unknowns. And I think we've been experiencing that for quite a while now already, because Uranus has been traveling together with the North Node already in 2022 for most of the year. So we've been feeling this nervous energy. We've been feeling these unknowns. And still, for those of us who have the willingness to innovate and to do something different, something unusual, to break the routine in some way in an area of their lives, we will get rewarded and we will feel fulfilled down the line. So we have to just trust this process, letting go of old structures or old ways of doing things. And through that re-innovation and through that process of doing things differently, we get to a much more elevated place, right? Remember, it's about raising our frequencies. Now, ask yourself, what might be a new way of seeing, using, and approaching my possessions, valuables, money, and talents? So what might be a new way of doing that? And is there anything that I could point to that might be keeping me in a rut? You know, sometimes we have to kind of look to see, like, what's keeping me in that rut? What's keeping me from re-innovating things in my life, from changing things? And what if I consciously broke away from situations that limit how I honor myself and my talents? Because it's very important that we honor ourselves, that we honor our talents from not from a conditioned place, but from a very high frequency place. So if there's something that's limiting us from the past, in order to do that, we need to take a look at that, and we need to break away from those limitations. Now, we may experience sudden insights about our finances or our physical reality or about the planet and what's most important to us right now and for our future. So pay attention to these insights. So ask yourself, where do I need to question prevailing norms connected to my physical reality? And where could I explore unconventional alternatives? And remember, unconventional alternatives, this could be anywhere from like little things where we just adjust and do things differently or in a very unusual way, or it could be something much bigger that's almost like futuristic, like something that nobody has ever thought about. Because when we're coming from that higher mind place, it could be something that our day-to-day mind can't even think of or perceive. So it can be something that's completely new and futuristic. So where could I explore unconventional alternatives? And could I be willing to operate with little to no social approval regarding my values, my preferences, or my body? And the reason why we need to do that is because when we start to tap into this higher frequency, this might not be something that the regular person or society is comfortable with. So they might not be able to step into that place yet because they are still holding on to the traditional old way of doing things and being. So we need to, if we are able to tap into this higher frequency, we also need to be patient with other people or with society because they need to catch up to that. So we need to be patient with people as they're catching up, and it might take a while. So could I be willing to operate with little to no social approval regarding my values, my preferences, or my body as I'm tapping into these higher frequencies? Now, Mercury's trine to the Uranus North Node alignment and the sextile to the South Node indicates that realistic thought processes, including our sobering inner dialogue, are a big part of our ability to balance the traumatic emotional and the interruptive physical reality of our current soul's journey. So as you may have noticed, the moon nodes in Scorpio, Taurus that they've been in since the beginning of 2022 have created some upheaval in terms of our ability to feel safe and our ability to feel maybe even financially taken care of. And so there's a lot of things that feel a little bit traumatizing around what we're experiencing right now, economically, politically, socially. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on that feels a little out of control. And so this Mercury in Capricorn is giving us an opportunity to say, okay, what is so right now? What's my starting point? What's my beginning point? Where am I right now? And how can I find a way to deal with some of that traumatic stuff or emotional stuff that I've been feeling or tapping into, which could have also been grief or loss of some sort. But also then this physical reality that has had all these interruptive components to it, where we don't quite know what's happening and all this uncertainty. So how can we find a way to balance this emotional, physical place that we're currently all experiencing collectively and individually speaking, that's connected to our soul's journey? And that Mercury is just saying, stay real, take it one day at a time, take it one moment at a time, and so on. So ask yourself, if my body was wired for survival, what would its natural response be to any perceived threat? And how could I settle and soothe myself and my body when these natural survival reactions show up? So we have to know that, we very often, when we are in a place of feeling out of control or feeling there's a lot of uncertainty happening in our lives, there's a lot of fear that comes up from that. And we tend to tap into more our survival mode and survival reactions. And they come not just from the mind, but they also come from our body. They come from our feeling body, our mental body, and our emotional body. So how could I settle and soothe myself and my body when these natural survival reactions show up? And what if I choose to tune in and trust my authority rather than tune outwards and trust everyone else's? And this is another big part of what we're all experiencing right now, is we're being invited to trust our own authority, to trust what we already know inside of ourselves. And if we're hearing things from other sources, from so-called authority figures out there in the world, we're being invited to take a sobering look at that, to really make sure that this is truly in alignment with what we're experiencing internally, with what we're experiencing in our body, with what we're experiencing in our direct experience right around us. So what if I chose to tune in? We have to tune in order to do this. What if I chose to tune in and trust my authority rather than tune outwards and trust everyone else's? And if we are open to it, we can receive inspiration from higher places and use this inspiration to create a better future for ourselves right now, making this much easier to find new solutions to old problems. Just remember, Uranus, higher mind, and Mercury, day-to-day mind, connect in a harmonious way. So consequently, we will more easily connect with integrity and mastery out there in the world when we share our vision for a more abundant future, because what comes in from that higher mind is always something that makes us feel more abundant, and it makes us feel safe, because we are always safe. It's just that our survival mind or survival body will tell us that we're not safe. But when we tap into these higher frequencies, we will always be able to see that there is never an issue around safety for us. Now, ask yourself here, am I ready to experiment and at the same time stay realistic about my current earthly realities? And could I be open to inspiration from higher places or my higher self? And where could I apply new solutions to old problems? Remember, this is reinventing ourselves or our situations in our life. Now, what does an abundant future look like to me? This is another really good question to maybe journal on or meditate on. And do I have what it takes to create this abundant future for myself? Do I come from integrity, self-mastery? Do I trust my own authority? Do I value my unique talents? So these are some really, really good questions for this trine between Mercury and Uranus and the North Node. Now, I would also like to mention that Uranus and Taurus will be in a mutual reception with Venus in Aquarius until January 26. And for those of you who don't know what a mutual reception is, it means that they are in each other's signs. Venus rules Taurus and is currently in Aquarius, and Uranus rules Aquarius and is currently in Taurus. So they're in each other's sign, and so that means they support each other's agenda. And this provides an opportunity to form a shared vision and a more tolerant approach to our interactions with other people. Now ask yourself, how open-minded and flexible could I allow myself to be? And what alternative tools might I employ that allow for greater freedom or diversity in my life, financially or otherwise? And what do I value in my affiliations with like-minded people? What could be more easily addressed regarding any group experiences or humanitarian causes or technology? And what do I value about my ability to make a unique difference in my communities or networks? So as you can hear, some of these questions are similar to each other. So really just choose the questions that resonate the most with you, that you want to work with more intimately, possibly in terms of your journaling or your meditations. But also feel free to, brainstorm with a group of people as it comes to these questions, like pick 5 questions or 3 questions and then share them with your community, share them with your group of people, friends, or if you're a yoga teacher, or if you are a healer, or if you're an intuitive. Allow people in your communities to work with these energies as they're currently unfolding in terms of this new moon energy for the next 28 days. And have people work with these energies. Now, Saturn, the traditional ruler of Aquarius, aligns with Venus in Aquarius at the time of the super new moon. So because we have Saturn and Venus coming together, there is some things we want to consider here. Now, let's talk a little bit about Saturn first. Saturn symbolizes form and structure on all levels. It's connected to ego constructs, patterns, beliefs. It's connected to governments. It's connected to corporations. It's connected to institutions of all kinds, especially Saturn in Aquarius. And with Saturn, we are learning about limits, always like where are our limits? With Saturn, we're always learning about responsibility, and certainly a process of maturity is connected to Saturn, and also becoming our own authority, understanding, who we are, what we know, and in terms of our self-mastery. Now, we are asked to take responsibility for our role in the collective with Saturn in Aquarius. We're asked to turn a critical eye on everything we envision for our future. And we're also asked to adopt an objective and scientific approach. That's the highest vibration of Saturn in Aquarius. Now, we are individually and collectively invited to clarify our thinking and take a closer look at the agreements that we've made and are currently making with each other on a collective level. And remember, Saturn is only going to be in Aquarius until March 7th. So we're really, between now and March 7th, we're really trying to wrap up this transit through Aquarius and trying to really get to the highest vibration of that energy as much as we can. So as best as you can, slow down a little and focus on what can be done within the limitations that we're currently experiencing. And just know that rushing will backfire right now. We don't want to be rushing anything, especially in connection with relationships, in connection with money, in connection with connecting with other people. So what you can ask yourself here is, what works for me and what doesn't in connection with other people? And does my participation in various groups or networks align with who I am? Is it connected to my own values, or with where I see myself 5 years from now, for example, where I see myself in the future? And what relationships or affiliations do I genuinely want to commit myself to? And then do the communities in my life, whether locally or online, Do they genuinely resonate with my vision for the future as it stands now rather than what it was 5 or 10 years ago? And which corporations or businesses do I want to support? And which do I want to disconnect or part myself from? Remember, with Saturn, we're always like, we're moving towards what feels more in alignment, and we're moving away from or separating ourselves from what doesn't feel in alignment. So this is not the best time to really get involved in brand new relationships, collaborations, groups, or good causes right now. Because with Saturn and Venus coming together, we're just much more aware of limitations and needing to separate ourselves in some way. So ask yourself, could I focus on a new sense of responsibility in my existing relationships? And am I ready to face any problems in my relationships that have been swept under the rug, possibly? And where do I choose to recommit or not? Where do I choose to recommit or not recommit? And are there any old friends with whom I want to renew some ties? Or business collaborators or group affiliations? Can I show up responsibly and maturely? And this is what we have to remember with Venus and Saturn coming together. There's this sense of needing to show up responsibly and in a mature way as we're connecting. And also we need to honor ourselves. Healthy boundaries are very important too. Now let's talk about some of the other aspects in this new moon chart. Mercury in Capricorn is most aspected. It has the most aspects than any of the other planets. And it's not only connected with Uranus that we've already talked about, but it also squares that Jupiter-Chiron alignment in Aries that's coming closer and closer together, will be exact in March. And it's making a quincunx to Mars in Gemini, which is part of a Yod-configuration, with Mars as the focal point of this Yod. So we will talk about the Jupiter-Chiron alignment in Aries in our next forecasting forum on Monday, February 6th, as I mentioned already in the very beginning. So feel free to join us for that, for more information about this connection, which is very much about our healing process. And then also for more details about those Mercury aspects in this super new moon chart, please read my new moon article via your membership portal on my site. And you can get access to all my daily forecasts or my astrology articles or any other member content, including all of the coaching questions in writing from this video, if you become a member of my online community for $4 a month or only $39 for the whole year. So that's something that is available if you're interested in that. But if we want to sum it up right now for the super new moon in terms of like what it's all about, it does remind us that each of us is on a unique path and is also an integral part of our collective journey at this time. And when we do not take responsibility for our role in the collective, when we do not honor our own unique contribution to society or our communities, then we do get stuck in feeling alienated or separate, and we are unable to relate to others who are different, and we might even isolate ourselves. So just remember, if you don't want to feel isolated, if you don't want to feel alienated or different from other people or disconnected, take responsibility for the role that you are playing in the collective, for the role that you're playing in your own communities, and bring your own uniqueness and your own unique energy to the people in your life, to your like-minded people, to your communities, to your networks. Don't try to be like everybody else. Really allow yourself to be who you are and bring that to everybody. So ask yourself here, what if I allowed myself to be both different and connected to others? Great question. Now, what stops me from being me when I'm with my tribe? So what keeps me in this place of like not wanting to be completely myself? And what makes me unique, right? We have to also understand, like, what is it in me that is unique or different from other people? And how could that spark inside of me make a difference in my various networks or communities? So I just want you to actually close your eyes for a second. If you're still with me, close eyes for a second and just imagine a world where everyone was a clone of yourself. Same features, same personality, same preferences, same style, same ideas, same beliefs, same everything. And then just ask yourself, how long could a world like that exist if everything was exactly the same? And how long before the human spirit would perish if everybody was exactly the same, if there was no unique component? So if we imagine that, we can see, right, if we go to the extreme of that, right, we can see how important it is that there is diversity, that there is unique, that everyone brings their own little uniqueness to the collective. Even if we don't maybe love or appreciate everyone else's uniqueness or everyone else's preferences. Of course, we cannot like everybody. We cannot agree with everybody. However, what we do want to understand is that each little component of this uniqueness and these different preferences that comes into the world creates a much richer world, a much bigger place for us to exist in. And so as best as you can, remember why you are here at this momentous time of change on this planet. And just think different. Keep your heart wide open and come together as much as possible, because when we come together with an open heart and allow each other to think differently, that is what creates a better world. So help birth a new world one day at a time by doing those things, by keeping an open heart, thinking different, and coming together. So just ask yourself here, what if innovation was the new normal? What if thinking out of the box was the greatest gift I could give to myself or others? And what if I let go of the box entirely? What if I don't need a box that I have to put things into? And what if diversity was the greatest gift we could give each other at this time? And what if time truly did heal all? And what if that were so? How much patience would be just right? How much patience can we give to ourselves, to others, in this process that we're currently in? Now, if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 0 to 4 degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, or 29 degrees of Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, then this new moon will impact you more than other people. And the house placement of the new moon will indicate which area of life is most ready for a new beginning for the next 28 days. So take your birth chart and take a look. Where does 1.5 degrees of Aquarius land in your birth chart? So just look to see, where's that 1.5 degrees of Aquarius? And if you don't know how to do that, or if some of this is a little bit too complicated for you, also feel free to check out my 30-minute class, How to Read Your Birth Chart. You can get free access via my homepage at astrologercoach.com, and just scroll down on the homepage until you get to a window that says free class, and just click on that window, and then you should be able to get access to How to Read Your Birth Chart. Now, let's talk about new moon intentions. For those of you who are interested in setting some intentions for the next 28 days, the new moon is the best time to set powerful intentions. And the perfect time is always after the new moon becomes exact. But we also want to make sure that we're not doing it during a moon void, of course. So this month, the very best time, there's actually two most potent times to do it. would be between 3:53 p.m. on January 21st and 5:19 a.m. on January 23rd. And then the second time would be between 12:36 p.m. Until 3:53 p.m. also on January 23rd. So that's a Monday. Now, all of those times that I just gave you are East Coast time, New York time in North America. And if you live in a different time zone other than New York time or East Coast time, and you don't want to be converting time zones on your own, I suggest you can join me on my Facebook fan page or via my Twitter account. And I will just post reminders when it's time to set your intentions at that time, at those most potent times. And whenever those reminders pop up, you just sit down and write down some intentions. And if you want to have more information about how to set these intentions, feel free to click on a link below this video where I will give you a link to my article about setting intentions on the new moon. Now, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter if you wish on my homepage at astrologercoach.com, or you can email me at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. Those newsletters go out once or twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month, with special offers, videos, announcements, etc. Now, if you have any general questions about the new moon or about astrology, feel free to always email me at info@astrologercoach.com. If you have personal questions that require of me to pull up your birth chart, then please book a reading via my website. Or if you have any questions connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days, feel free to join the next forecasting forum on February 6th. I'm always happy to answer questions during the forum. You can also send me questions in advance that I will then include in the forum. If you want to do that, please send me that question by February 5th at the end of the day. Again, we will be focusing on the Jupiter-Chiron alignment in Aries, where we will basically talk about what is the meaning of our current healing journey and what are our beliefs around healing or not healing, or who we are and what we're doing here on this planet, and so on. Now, there is an early bird special that's still available until February 4th at midnight Eastern time. And that's it. So my members will hear from me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon. So we can look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And everyone else will see me again in 4 weeks for the next new moon video. And as always, as best as you can, stay focused on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. It's very important that we approach things from a holistic level right now, that we're not just connecting to one part of ourselves, but to all the different parts of ourselves. All right, so have a fantastic new moon. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.